Hello,
Hey,
how are you, Michael?
good. How are you, Julia?
I'm so good, enjoying this lovely Saturday.
Right, yeah, it's nice again. It's nice out. It's great.
Yeah, where are you based? You're in New York, right?
Yeah, or you're in Staten Island or something like that.
Yeah,
You're in the
I'm
city.
I'm hanging out next to Jersey.
Yeah, so I'm like an hour. Like you'd have to go over the Goethals and up 95, up Route 17 to Orange County, like an hour away.
Oh, so you're like by Suffern, all that kind of stuff. Oh, I
Yeah, I'm
love
like
Rockland
yeah,
County.
yeah, like 15 minutes from Suffern. Yeah, I
Cool, I
usually go
like
down.
it. I like it.
I go down to Suffern because they got better restaurants than where I am.
Why, where exactly are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Town of Warwick.
Oh, I know Warwick, yeah.
Yeah, everyone comes here for apple picking. That's why everyone knows it usually.
And then they just go to Monroe Woodbury High School.
Yeah, yeah. It's right by there. So you used to be a power lifter, right?
Oh yeah, when I was probably like 21 years old, I was powerlifting before it was cool.
Mm, what year was that?
I want to say my last competition was 2015 or 2016. So it's been about 5 years, and my training has changed astronomically since.
Well, yeah, you could tell from your Instagram feed. I think like your first post ever was, I think, like a squat, and then every post after was something basically where you have like one hand and you're holding yourself up and your feet are twisting in the air. Some
Hmm.
sort of some sort of crazy thing that I could never do.
Oh, you can do it. Your hamstrings are just tight, probably.
You know what's tight? My quads are tight because I have an like a bad like anterior pelvis tilt, right?
Hmm.
And so I need to stretch my quads like a lot. Like if it gets bad and like my hips will start to hurt and my quads are very tight and I stretch them and everything kind of goes back in line and
Hmm.
pain usually goes away.
Yeah, I would definitely say it might not be your quad. It could be your rectus femoris, which is a hip flexor of the quad. It's most likely your hip flexor, your core could be weak, and your hamstrings could be either really tight or really loose. So I'm in an anterior tilt as well, but my hamstrings are loose. So there's like many conditions that it could be from.
Yeah, you're probably right because I never do core. I never want to do it. And um my wife's always bugging me. She does it. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do core. You want to do it with me?" I'm like, "Well, I got to squat in 2 or 3 days. I can't do core. It's gonna mess me up."
Hmm.
I always have an excuse. I have to deadlift 2 weeks from now. I can't do core.
I have to exercise in 3 months. I can't do core.
Yeah, I can't do it. I hate having a sore stomach. I like to call it exercise on my stomach. I hate it. I hate it.
Mm. We got to get you to love it so that your squats and deadlifts improve.
Yeah, I wonder if my core is what has gotten stronger over the years because when I first started squatting in college back in mm, 2001
Mhm.
in St. Francis College in Brooklyn,
Oh yeah, the nursing school.
they uh yeah, there was a powerlifting team there while I was there. It's not there anymore, and my my back, I guess, I don't, we didn't have the phone cameras. We weren't doing that stuff back then. And, the guys on the team used to call me the Riddler because my back looked like a question mark when I was squatting.
Mm.
So over the years, it's gotten tighter and straighter, but still when I squat, like a max squat, it basically turns into a good morning.
I was going to ask that. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I was doing a podcast with this pastor in Pennsylvania, and that's what he said. He was like, "Yeah, I was looking at your squat. It looked like a good morning." And I was like, "Thanks a lot, Pastor."
Yeah, we got to get you doing some core work, some act. Do you do actual good mornings? That probably would help you.
Well, here's the thing with good mornings. I started doing them. All right. Oh, I've done them in the past, and I've actually done them with more weight than I can squat.
Hmm.
So I was getting to the point where I was wondering, I was like, is this helping my squat? I was like, I could do so much with these. I could do more than I squat. I don't know.
Yeah, it could have been done like improperly or so. If you have like an SSB, I find that that's the best way to like really hinge into the pattern. But there are so many things. If somebody has a very good morningy squat, I would definitely say look at the core, but also look at the ankles. If your ankles are not able to go over your toe, I would definitely look at your ankle mobility. Try some high bar squats to really get those knees to go over. Give your hips some love.
Yeah, well, I think I started the whole low bar movement before it was cool
Hmm.
because I found that it helped me to stop my back from rounding.
Hmm.
The higher it is up on my back, the more likely I am to be hunched over. So, I have I mean, I guess the bruise is gone, but I had like, a bruise here from the bar being like so low and just jamming in, not the bar jamming down here, but I guess just, I don't know, just that getting jammed. Like I broke a blood vessel in there.
A lot of people, when they do squat, if they don't have adequate shoulder function, they get a lot
Yeah.
of elbow tendonitis, especially in the low bar squat, how you have to crank it. So you'll see sometimes a ton of guys like grabbing it outside the rack and doing that just to maintain the torso position.
Yeah. If I'm not very tight, I can't hold my back together. If I was to grab out here, I would totally,
No,
I would totally
collapse.
go. Yeah, totally collapse. Yeah, yeah. But but that weakness or flexibility in my back helps me in the bench because I remember, like, now there's a lot of guys that have a big arch in their bench. But
Hmm.
back when I started lifting, I guess guys weren't stretching that or weren't. So I have a really extreme arch in my back, and so I guess it naturally helped me there. I don't know. I don't know what I'm
Hmm.
talking about. I'm not an expert in this.
Yeah, we can
What would you?
talk about this whenever you want. I have a lot of opinions on this.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. You know what I mean? Do you think my crappy squat technique led to my good bench technique?
I don't think they're related at all. Because
No.
like when you're talking about a bench arch, you're talking about thoracic spinal mobility, which would be more relative to a bridge. It wouldn't really have anything to do with any kind of squatting mechanic at all. But
Mhm.
what I will say is if your squat looks like a good morning, I definitely tend to your hamstrings a little bit more, and I definitely tend to your core a lot more. Because if you're caving and falling over, your trunk doesn't have adequate stability to keep you in the proper position. It's going to be a lot of shear force on the lower back as opposed to feeling it more in the glutes.
Yeah, so today, right? Like where I'm feeling pain today from my deadlift on yesterday. I feel it all the way down, like deep, like down. It sounds like a dirty word, the thing all the way down
Yeah, I
at the
know what you
bottom.
mean. Yeah, yeah.
The cock. How
Uh-huh.
do you pronounce it properly?
The coccyx, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I say it wrong all the time, but yeah, but that's where like I'll feel like real soreness from my
Hmm.
deadlift. But my dead, believe me, my good morning squats are way better than my deadlifts.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I've actually just happened to ran across someone on Instagram doing a high belt deadlift. Have you ever seen that?
Just like up here, right?
Well, yeah,
You're
wearing the
talking about?
belt up
Yeah, yeah.
there. Yeah, and I think that would help me a lot because that's exactly where like my back is hinging.
Hmm.
And
Or you can train your core and not need the belt.
I don't want to hear
Ooh.
that. I don't want to hear that.
You don't like my honest answers.
No,
Not today.
not that. Yeah, no. No, I like it. I don't disagree with you. It's just I just don't want to do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna no. Well, let me tell you this. I have a competition on June 13th in New Jersey. It's like 15 minutes from you, and it's 100% raw, the organization.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
So they're having one down in New Jersey, and so anyway, I want to hit a PR on my deadlift. I don't care what it looks like. It's going to look horrible, but I'm telling myself, like, after this competition, that's it. I'm dropping weight. I'm going to focus on form. I'm going to focus on silly things like core. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to give it a real effort, a real effort, and see what happens, and hopefully it works out well. Because I'm getting older now. I mean, I'm not that old. I'm 37. I'm going to be 38 soon, and I'm like, I can't be deadlifting like this. I should have never. I started on a team when we had like 30 guys on the team, and we had a couple girls on the team, and I wasn't. I think I started deadlifting like 2 plates. I wasn't very strong. Like most guys I do a podcast with, they're like, I just was a strong guy, so I got into powerlifting. That's not my story. My story is I was a swimmer. I had like almost zero strength, and I just wanted to do it. I had fun hanging out in the weight room. I had fun with the guys there, and so I did it, and I liked it. And my coach said that he would have threw me off the team because I had zero strength.
Yeah.
Because he sent me the first day, he really thought I wasn't going to do what he told me to do. The guys were squatting on one squat rack. The girls were squatting on another. And I think it was my wife and like 2 other girls at the time. And I think they were squatting 95 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and I did a couple sets of 95, and it was a lot for me. And he thought, because, I guess from coaching, he's been coaching since like 1974. He was 100% sure that like my ego was going to be like, nope, I'm not squatting with those girls. I'm not squatting that. Like, I'm just going to get out of there. And he says to this day, he was impressed with that I was able to do it and lift it with the girls. I didn't think anything of it. I guess that was just my mentality. I didn't really care. And then I happened to meet my wife.
See, blessings in disguise. So powerlifting brought you love.
Yeah. You want to know a funny story, right? Because before I was powerlifting, one day I was on the treadmill, and my ex-girlfriend was we were having an argument, and I must have been yelling at her. But that's what my wife says. So my wife walks into the gym and hears the argument, and she said, I would never date an asshole like that. Oh, she said, I would never marry an asshole like that. Well, she did.
And now she did, yeah.
She did. But, okay, so how many years did you lift for?
So it's actually funny. I'll tell this quick little story now because it makes sense to add to this context about the deadlift, is that I was powerlifting because I had a strong deadlift. Like, I was just weight training with my friends for probably like 3 years before I decided to even start powerlifting. And I was just like able to deadlift 185 for 4. And my friend was like, that's really good for somebody who doesn't really care about heavy weight. What they failed to tell me is that I completely looked like a cat. So, like this kind of like.
Oh, I know. That's my deadlift. Yeah.
So then I herniated a disc, and that was in my lower back. And the last competition I did, I had a herniated disc. I hadn't deadlifted in like 2 months because it was so bad. And I just happened to sign up for a competition and deadlifted 300 pounds without having deadlifted in months. So it's pretty funny because like the powerlifter mentality is very different from that of like somebody who wants long-term success. Sometimes like the powerlifter mentality is like, I need to lift this weight now. I don't want to change my technique because I know that it will sacrifice weight in the beginning. So like when I did go back to a proper deadlift, I was doing like 175, which was a big ego hit. And I feel like a lot of people in the sport, even though it's a very friendly sport, the ego is like a huge component of it. You'd rather lift with bad technique 100 more pounds than lift with perfect technique with 100 pounds, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But long term, that's not sufficient for you. Things get weak. You could hurt something. You could pull a hamstring, pop a bicep tendon. Like the ego and the pride in powerlifting is so marketable and so much identifies with powerlifting itself.
Well, let me tell you a scenario where I almost killed myself and I didn't care. So, right. So as I got closer to the last competition I went to, I was going like, overboard with the pre-workout. I was taking like 4 scoops of pre-workout.
Oh yeah, 1,200 mgs of caffeine a day.
Yeah. So, now I get to the competition and I'm like, well, I got a squat, I got a bench, I got a deadlift. Well, now I need 12 scoops. And so I mix up a bottle of 12 scoops and I'm like, well, I'll just drink a third of it, before the squat, before the bench, before the deadlift. About halfway through the deadlift, I turned purple. Like legit. Hold on, let me show you a picture.
It's hanging up on the wall for motivation.
Can
Oh, literally.
you see
Yeah.
the difference, how purple I was compared to my wife?
You're definitely like reddish.
Yeah. And my wife's like, what's going on? Like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm fine. She had no idea what I did. And anyway, weeks later, so yeah, at that competition, I felt like my skin was cooking. It was really weird. I thought I was gonna die. So weeks later, my wife, she's like, how many scoops of pre-workout did you take at that meet? I'm like, 12. She was like, you did what? And my wife has always been like trying to talk me into like reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like throughout, like, I mean, we've been lifting she was lifting like almost like a year before me. So she's been lifting like 21 years. So, I mean,
Long time, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the only time she stopped working out was we had 3 kids. That's the only time she stopped lifting. And what was I going to? Oh man, there's been times where she's like giving me good advice and like, I just can't take it from her. I don't know what that is. Like,
You're married to her. That's why. There's something that happens that once you become in a relationship with a person that knows different information, you just don't. Like, I can tell you the same thing and you'll listen to me. That's just the psychology of it. It's because you live together, you share a life. So you're just like, no, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I always joke that like a homeless person could have walked by and been like, bro, you're squatting high. I would be like, hey, thanks. Like if I was squatting before this competition, I was squatting high. And it was just me by myself in the basement. And she's like, "Oh, you're going a little high." I'm like, "I know what I'm doing. I know what depth is." And I bombed out of that meet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I've slowly been able to take advice, but I've gotten better at that.
It's funny. I've noticed the boys that are in like USAPL boys are very different than other Fed boys. You'll see like USAPL people being like this very strict, like methodical method. And then you have like West Side Barbell screaming, 800-pound squats, like dying half the time.
Yeah, you got to follow my wife. She's pretty interesting to watch lift.
Yeah, I want to see it.
Yeah, JM Naziri. And she has amazing form. She's a great lifter. She's right now, I think she weighs 103 pounds and she's pulling right now 250.
She's a little person.
She's a little person. Yeah, she's a little person.
How tall is she? Like 5? If that.
Close. I think she's like 5'1 3/4.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's so little that she wants like the 3/4 in there.
Oh, totally. Yeah, of course. Round up to 5'2".
She's good because she always almost always wins best female.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only time she lost best female, the person that won wound up getting it taken away from them because they failed the drug test.
Well, your wife's a queen.
Yeah, she's good. She's a good lifter. Well, I'm gonna guess because you stopped a little while ago. I don't think anyone was doing the strict curl or overhead press in competitions.
No, but I wish that they did. I do. I think personally, I find bench press to be a very odd movement. I don't really find it indicative of power. When I think of power and strength, I don't think of bench press. When in my life am I going to be in a situation that I'm on my back displaying power in like a horizontal position? Never. I would find like a shoulder press or a strict press much more applicable in terms of like displaying power and strength versus a bench press, because it's applicable to real life. I may have to be in a position where I'm lifting something overhead as opposed to being on my back in an arch with grip with like so much variability to a powerlifting bench press versus what I could see and envision in a strict press.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, this 100% raw. There's some meet directors are starting to incorporate the an overhead press in.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. And I haven't done the overhead press yet, but I do the strict curl. That I like.
Mm-hmm.
That I really like.
And that's against the wall, right? I've definitely seen it.
Yeah, basically your heels can only be, I think, about like 1 foot from the wall. They have a line on the floor that your heels can't go past. Your butt, it's basically, it's like a bench press standing up. Your butt and your shoulders have to stay on it, just like a bench press.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you got to curl it up. And recently I found there's a lot more technique to it than I knew there was, because I had this guy Bruce Knox on. I put his podcast out on Friday. I learned so much from him about the I used to look at it basically as just a bicep movement, just picking it up like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the way what he's doing is his elbows come out,
yeah,
brings it up, and then he tucks it in, and then it's like a full body movement up.
Mm-hmm.
And like, and I was saying, like, normally, like this far, like into like my cycle where I'm training right now, I'm like 95%. Like I wouldn't change anything, but I was like, you know what, this seems like. Am I off or are you on? You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. I don't know what just happened though. There was just a bunch of sounds.
I think my headphones went off.
They could have died. These things will die sometimes. It's sad.
Yeah. I tried doing it with these the last couple podcasts, and I don't like it. I don't think it makes a difference. Okay, so when you first started, like, what method would you say you used? Did you like make up your own method? Did you mix stuff together?
I did a good old 5-3-1 in the beginning.
Yeah.
Classic,
and
5 reps or 5 by 5. That happened too. 5 sets of 5 bench, squat, deadlift, the good old. I was stubborn though too. Like I was very anti deload, very anti recovery, anti stretching at that point in life.
Yeah, I don't believe in stretching.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the point. If you have something that's tight, right? If there's something tight, well, okay, well then you could stretch that. That makes sense. But other than that, I don't know. It just seems like a waste of time.
Well, tight doesn't always mean that it's strong. It could be tight and weak. Like most people, the adductors, the groin muscles are very tight and weak. There are so many situations that could happen. Like you do want a certain degree of tension, for example, in the hamstring. You don't want to be too loose for a deadlift. That's not ideal for strength, but you want to be able to touch your toes so that you could really like integrate your hamstrings and your pelvis appropriately to be at the right angle to initiate the lift safely. So I definitely think there's an importance in stretching. I think that it's not you as a power lifter should be doing it, but you can use exercises to do it. So you don't have to necessarily like do all the static stretching, but to do a light load RDL with like a very little degree of knee bend and really like sit into the hinge and hold that position, you can stretch with weight. I'm not all about like, you got to do static stretching every day, but I like to use weightlifting methods to increase flexibility.
Yeah.
I'll come down and me and my wife will start lifting at the same time, and I'll start just, I start warming up with the bar with whatever I'm doing. I don't know what my wife does. She walks back and forth. She does stuff where she kicks herself in the butt.
Yeah.
She does stuff where she looks like a flamingo.
External rotation of the hip, and then the butt kicks or stretching the hip flexor quad a little bit. They're good warm-ups. They're dynamic warm-ups.
Yes, I don't know. I just have to like quickly like do like my deadlifts real quick and roll the bar out of her way as she
Yeah.
it goes. You have a degree in eating, right?
Yes, I have a bachelor's in food. No, I have a bachelor's of science in nutrition, and I'm a dietitian. So the difference is I did my residency, passed my board exam, and it's like a 6-year process, I would say.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It is a big deal. So, well, I mean, I'm just going to use you for free right now, basically.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, my wife, right? She still has migraine issues, right? So she went to someone who's a chiropractor, and they were like, "Yeah, try this diet," and it was like gluten-free, onion-free, garlic-free, a whole bunch of stuff like that, and it didn't help her migraines. And now she can't eat gluten or a lot of garlic or things with onions. It messes her up for days. And she's not gluten free. Like, she went and got tested at the doctor's office. She's not.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
Celiac.
She doesn't have celiac disease. And she even tried to eat like a little bread at a time to like get like back like into it, but like that diet totally screwed her up.
Yeah, that could be, I mean, a few things. If she's having migraines, it could be, any amount of things. It could be too much caffeine. It could be too little water. It could be so many things. It could even be a neurological component, something that you would have to see a doctor for, get an MRI, something that most likely has very little to do with her diet. It could also be like the muscles in the back of her neck are tight. Her SCM is tight. So like, I don't even know why a chiropractor would be qualified to recommend a diet. I would absolutely fire said chiropractor immediately. Because I would never give somebody posture, restoration movements. I'm a dietitian. That's not my job.
Yeah, that chiropractor used to have a big, nice house, and now she lives in a trailer. But yeah, anyway, so this, right, like, gets real tight on her, and like she wants me to like, she basically wants me to like massage like all the way into her brain almost, like the skull meets there. It gets very tight on her.
Yeah, and I mean, she could be in a forward head posture position and need to just do some neck exercises where she's drawing her chin and neck back, or drawing her chin and neck back and down, or left and right. But yeah, I wouldn't say that would necessarily be like a nutritional concern.
That's interesting. Neck exercises. Huh.
Look
into just standing up, no weights.
No weight at all. If anything, you can also like do lower traps, so like holding weights and just like letting them take your traps down, and using your lower trap musculature to draw those muscles down and relax that. So there's a couple things that I would suggest before even talking about food.
Yeah, I don't think you like weights anymore. I think like, you had a bad experience with weights a couple of years ago, and now you just like, like
I love weights. That's not true at all. Like, I clean and jerk.
Weights took advantage of you one time.
I actually no, I do. I definitely do pull-ups, rows, chin-ups every week, lunges, all that good stuff. Just not barbell.
No. If you're not touching the bar, it's not weights.
I don't know about that. I feel like I'm freakishly strong in like odd movements that would be old-time strongman things, like a windmill, things like that. I'm very strong at Turkish get-ups. I'm very strong. So like, even though I haven't deadlifted in a while, I'm still 100% sure I could walk up to a barbell and do a 2-plate deadlift any day of the week.
You definitely are very strong. The stuff you do is very impressive.
It's not barbell lifting. That's true though.
Right. So it's just, it's impressive, but it's not cool.
Oh, wow.
You know, I have a problem with my diet. I got a big problem.
What's your problem?
I take medication to go to sleep,
Mm-hmm.
and in the middle of the night, I eat like unconsciously without, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it messes up like my eating for the day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'd like to be eating like protein, like throughout the day, every 2.5 hours, and all that. But I eat so many calories at night. I'm like, oh my goodness, like I have to like lower like my intake throughout the day because of like I have to play detective in the morning. Like I'm like, there's a bowl of spilled Cheerios, like there's like half a bagel. I'm like.
And you don't know? You're not aware of that at all?
No. Well, it's serious. I mean, I have bipolar disorder, and it's. I mean, I don't know if you want medications like what I'm taking to sleep is Seroquel and Klonopin.
Oh yeah, that. I'm familiar.
Well, the Seroquel makes you crazy hungry, you know, and then the Klonopin, like, just, it's, you know, it's like it's a benzo, you know, and knocks you out. So between the two of them, I become like this unconscious, like, hungry person.
Yeah, I would definitely say that that's due to your medications for sure.
Yeah.
And are you not eating a lot during the daytime? That could be it too.
I'm eating pretty good during the day. Yeah, it's just the second that Seroquel hits, not the second. Take that Seroquel, about half hour after that Seroquel hits, it makes you hungry. Or hungry. Like,
do you have to take that at night?
Yeah, otherwise I can't sleep through the night.
Can you take it slightly earlier? Perhaps like just changing the time by a little bit will prevent you from it being at 2 a.m. instead. Maybe it could be at midnight.
That's not a bad idea. I take it at 9 o'clock at night. I mean,
okay.
9 o'clock, but maybe half hour earlier. Yeah. Maybe.
When's your first feeding?
I don't know, like 7:30 or so.
Oh yeah, so you're never not digesting. You're constantly digesting.
Yeah, no, I usually have, you know, like some egg whites and some toast and lunch. You know, like I eat a lot of chicken breast. You know, I fill up my barbecue full of chicken breast for the week, you know, and I'll have, like, you know, for lunch I'll have, you know, chicken breast, you know, maybe a salad or something. You know, 2:30, maybe I'll have a protein shake. Like 5 o'clock, I was doing the same thing, another chicken breast, but I cut that out because I was starting to gain too much weight. So it's annoying. I'm eating the junk at night, and I'm having to like reduce like the protein I'm eating during the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're eating only protein in the day. Where are your carbohydrates? I mean, maybe you're not full enough at night. That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, like I said, I'll have like for breakfast, I'll have the toast with the eggs. Like the lunch, I'll try and have like maybe like a grilled chicken salad. You know, 5 o'clock, I do like some, I don't know, chicken breast with something else, and then whatever for dinner that my wife makes. She cooks pretty good, and then I take my medication at night and then eat like a madman.
Yeah, I mean, that would be really hard for me to say anything too. That's definitely not a situation I'm familiar with. But like from listening to what your diet sounds like, it sounds pretty void of like carbohydrate or fiber. It sounds like you almost get no fiber. And fiber is like what keeps you full. It's in brown rice, beans, legumes, you know, barley, any kind of whole grain product. And if you're not feeling full from your carbohydrate, you could be seeking carbohydrate in the middle of the night with your feedings because you have too much protein and you're not actually satisfied.
That makes sense. All right. So you want me to eat legumes and beans and do core and stretch?
You hate me. Yeah.
I don't like any of this.
I'm not cool to you.
Yeah, when can we, talk, talk about using more chains and bands?
Hey, I respect that all. Strength training is definitely cool. I just think it needs to be supplemented.
Okay, well, you're smart. I have, down in my basement here, I got the squat racks, bars, bands and chains and weights. And I used to have a leg curl machine down, and I was using it forever, didn't really get anywhere with it. So I sold that and I got a reverse hyperextension machine.
Nice.
So I feel that a lot in my glutes and my lower back. Feeling it as much in my hamstring as people say, But so now I'm trying to figure out something to do for hamstrings. Someone mentioned Nordic curls. What's your opinion?
I definitely think Nordics are great. I would say in the beginning, use a band for sure. I can't complete a Nordic without band assistance. It's actually a pretty advanced movement. There's like other things that I would do before that. Have you ever seen like somebody lay on their back and they put their feet on an exercise ball and they use their hamstrings to bring the ball to them?
I've never seen that, but I could picture it.
Yeah, like you would be laying on your back and your feet would be on a stability ball, and then you would just bend at the knee to use your hamstrings. That is like a pure hamstring curl, like purely. You can also like go on the floor.
What about
and
could you use a band instead of the ball?
A band, no, because your feet need to be on it, but you can use the floor with your socks instead of with no equipment.
Yeah.
You can just go on your back. I can show you right now.
Sure.
I don't really have socks on, so I won't be able to do the actual action, but I'll be able to show you the intent. So what you would do, see, I would need socks here to be able to perform it, but you would want to get not in an anterior tuck, a posterior tuck, right? Then you should feel your hamstrings on once you press your hips up just a touch. So I'm in a posterior tuck. My core is activated. And then what I would do if I had socks on, I would extend both legs at the same time, lengthen my hamstrings completely, and then I would use my hamstrings to come back and forth like this. Except all the way. I'm just not wearing socks.
I know. Those are one of those things. They look like they're easy, but I'm sure it's not.
Absolute hell of a movement.
Yeah. Okay.
And also RDLs. RDLs are great. They simulate a deadlift, just have slightly less knee bend. It's a pure, hip load movement. I mean, what better to use for a power lifter than an RDL? I mean, nothing in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah. See, like I'm so like everything's with the bar. I'm like, I'd rather do, I'm like RDLs. Okay, that. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's applicable and specific to your sport of powerlifting. If you're an athlete, perhaps maybe a Nordic would be more appropriate. But I definitely feel like the thing I just showed you is an excellent primer to test your hamstring function. You'll feel it a lot. And then maybe if you do that for a few weeks, I would say like the RDL would be a next good step.
What do you think like most, I guess, powerlifters, lifters, diet issue is? I think you might be right. Like with me, I think people might be staying away from carbs too much.
Yeah, it's too much protein. Like for some reason, there is no research to support 1 gram per pound, and 1 gram per pound is low for a lot of powerlifters. I know that there's so many controversial points of view, but like the research shows the most that anybody would need in terms of protein feedings would be like 0.8 to 0.9 grams per pound of body weight at most. And that's like elite sprinters, people that are really doing athletic training. Powerlifting is a lot of rest. It's a lot of strength, but we're sitting for 3 to 5 minutes sometimes between sets. We don't need as much protein as we really think. So when people see protein, it's 4 calories per gram. carbohydrate is also 4 calories per gram. For me, in terms of athlete recovery, they need more carbohydrate. So why wouldn't I just take some of their protein out and give them the carbohydrate that their bodies are really craving for their recovery? I think that's definitely a missing mark for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, people are also still crazy with the whole like the carbs are like the worst thing in the world.
Hmm.
You know.
Keto, people love diet fads.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, keto is like the coolest thing. Keto and CrossFit, I think.
Yeah.
Things right now.
And putting butter or MCT oil in your coffee is cool now.
That's gross.
No, I just put the milk in.
You're a coach right now still?
Yeah, I'm a trainer, yeah. And I have pretty much any kind of client. I have one guy who does Olympic lifting. So I definitely have people under a barbell, but I choose flexibility exercises that are specific to what they're training with me. So like Luca is his name. He does a lot of weightlifting. We do a lot of T-spine mobility because in order to get into a snatch, you really need like that upper spinal flexibility. And it's just depending on whatever the individual needs.
So let me ask you, that guy, Luca?
Yeah, he was so tight when I started.
Is he someone who is very fast and has great balance?
No.
See, here's my thing with Olympic lifting. I don't think anyone who's not a pure athlete should even waste their time with Olympic lifting. I just don't see the point of it because it's just like the whole point of the sport is being just so fast and so explosive and so balanced. I mean, I look at like Olympic lifters that are great, and I'm just like, I can't believe how fast they move. But to me, I just don't think it's a sport for everyone. I think like powerlifting is a sport for everyone. Everyone can get in and work and train. I don't know. I never was an Olympic lifter. I never trained Olympic lifters. I've talked to coaches that coach in the Olympics, but I don't know. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely think it's like, again, it's what you like. So he came to me and he wanted to learn it.
Yeah.
And he has been probably working on it for about a year. And this kid was not able to like do an overhead lunge. Like it was bad.
Yeah.
But he put in effort and time and work and tons of patience. And he did everything he needed to do. If he listens to this, I'm very proud of him. But I think it could be for everyone because although he wasn't naturally powerful, he's becoming powerful. Power is an adaptation. Strength is an adaptation. You're not naturally born with insane power. It's an adaptation.
So someone like him, did you work a lot on plyometrics?
No, we do some conditioning. I mean, it's not exactly like plyometrics that are important. I would say it's what you program the individual. So he's not just he's not just clean and jerking and snatching. He's overhead squatting. He's muscle snatching. He's snatch grip deadlifting. He's slowly front squatting and then pressing. Like there are so many movements that are programmed to assist his lifts that there wouldn't be time for a plyometric. It wouldn't be really important to him. Mm-hmm. The amount of stretching that an Olympic lifter does, you might not realize, is like astronomical. They are the most flexible athletes other than gymnasts.
As far as I know, it's the most injurious lifting sport there is. Olympic lifting.
I would definitely argue that powerlifting has more injuries for sure. There's way more elbow injuries in Olympic lifting, like you've seen, I'm sure, a snatch.
If you look at, if you talk to like professional, like Olympic lifters, or they can't stay in that sport forever. Like, and a lot.
No, yeah, I understand that.
I've never seen anyone I've never seen anyone like say, I've just been getting so many injuries in powerlifting, I'm going to move to Olympic lifting. You know, it's usually the way around.
Yeah, no, I could see that. I did go from powerlifting to Olympic lifting. I'm a little bit of an odd case, but it required a lot of flexibility training and I wound up having not been able to do that because of my lack of flexibility from powerlifting, I thought that I could just transition, but I didn't realize that it would take me about a year of like specific work to even be able to get into a good overhead squat.
I think the most annoying thing about Olympic lifting is like explaining the sport to people. Because I think most people look at Olympic lifting like you're doing an overhead press. I don't think people understand the
No,
art behind the movement.
it's beautiful. Like it's like a dance.
Yeah, it is. Like, I'm not like I said, like I mean I've messed around in the gym, but I'm not an Olympic lifter, and I'm total awe for people that are good at it. When you watch them like move, like you said, a dance, they move around the bar so fast.
Mhm.
The bar stays almost in the same place.
It does. If it's perfect, it stays in the same line and they just go under it. They explosively duck under it.
yes, and it's an incredible thing. You know, as a powerlifter, I know I would never be good at that.
Mhm.
But so have any of the people you coach competed?
Have they? No, actually, no. He wants to. He's not where he needs to be yet. And I will transfer him to a more Olympic lifting coach because I was good at getting him where he needed to be with his prerequisites. But in order for him to succeed, I know that I have to pass him on to somebody who is an actual Olympic lifting coach. My like skill set with him is about to expire. So I could help him with his mobility, I could help him with his conditioning, but he's going to need a coach.
Oh, all right. Let's get into controversial stuff.
Love it.
What's your view on steroids?
I mean, if you're an aging adult male not competing, like I understand that testosterone and those things might happen. I personally think that there should be federations that are just like, we know you do it, and federations that are like, we know you don't do it. And it should be the choice of the individual what they do. I mean, I know for a fact some of the top Olympians, some of the top athletes, probably 60-70% of them are on some kind of performance enhancing drug. It's like embedded in the culture of sport.
Yeah.
So it's a little hard to say that it should be fully canceled, but it should be talked about. And sometimes I think the anti-doping rules make people dope more or make people more clever about how they use it. But yeah, I definitely think there should be categories for that. And in states like the Olympics, maybe allow everyone to use it or make sure that they don't, because a lot of countries are cheaters. I'm sure you've heard of like the Russia 2014, there's a lot of illegal stuff happening with that.
The Russians are very impressive with their cheating. It's like,
it's like, how much do you need to win? Like, how much do you need to cheat to win? The pride behind that boggles my mind.
I mean, I don't know if this is true or not. I heard this from my coach back in college that the girls used to get pregnant a certain amount of time before the competition to increase their testosterone and then abort the babies.
That wouldn't shock me. That's crazy to me, but it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. All right. More controversial. I don't even know the right word. Like men that become women that are that compete with women.
Mm-hmm.
Want me to go first?
I have no problem going. You can go. Feel free.
You can go. All right.
Okay.
For me, it's tied to steroids. My point of view. I think the issue is if you took a man who used steroids from, he was 20 years old till he was 35 years old, stopped using steroid for 2 years, and then wanted to compete in 100% raw, right? He's not going to pop up as using steroids, but he had 15 years of muscle growth, of skeletal growth. It's just I don't think he should ever be allowed to compete in a tested organization. I think it's the same as a man who becomes a woman, you had all those years of benefit. And, you know, places have different rules and stuff, but that benefit's always going to be with you, you know, same as
Mhm.
using steroids for 10 years, you know, and it's not to, you know, like people get pissed off at that, but it's not to say like, you know, like I would, I think some people take like the opinion that I have on it and be like, I hate a transsexual. And it's like, no,
Yeah, that's not what you're saying. I get it.
I hate the person, you know, I'm just saying that I just don't think it's fair. That's all.
It becomes difficult to standardize. That's how I feel about it. If you have somebody going from female to male, I feel like they would be disadvantaged in the same way. And then you have the converse situation where they would be advantaged. So I think it's interesting. I have a few points of view. I would love to hear what more trans people think. I
Yeah.
think a lot of like cis people talk about this, but I would love to have a conversation and see what they feel before I like insert my opinion. But solely on what I think is that if we have male and female genders, right, categories, then we should open up categories for them as well. They should have a category for people to compete in. And I'm sure that now in the time we live in, more people will be comfortable being trans. So if we have trans male and trans female as categories, then they're competing against each other in a way that's fair.
Right.
And there's no advantage or disadvantage. I think we just need to increase the amount of genders to keep up with the times.
Yeah, right. So that would be right. Even adding more categories to powerlifting. Like right now, the sport is like fragmented into like 8 different sports because you got Raw Classic with no knee wraps, Raw with knee wraps, multiply, you know, and then you have multiply, then you have drug tested, then you have undrug tested. It's crazy how many how much, you know, how many different categories there are now. You know, I mean in the 90s there was just single ply and multiply. There was no Raw. You know, Raw started like in the late 90s with right over here in Pennsylvania, and Anti-Drug Athletes United. This guy Al Siegel started it, and he passed away, and then his organization got eaten up by 100% Raw. But then USAPL and then all the other big organizations, they were like, oh, the Raw organizations are growing. We got to start having, you know, Raw competitions. So, but yeah, the sport has changed so much over the last couple of years, and Raw is what really did it. I think Raw and people getting injured in CrossFit. That's what I hear. I hear people, big guys that own like powerlifting gyms. They getting tons of people that started in CrossFit because I think they would have been too scared at first to come to a powerlifting gym. But they went to CrossFit because it looks a little nicer and safer, and then they learn about squats and deadlifts and all this stuff, and a lot of them go to a powerlifting gym or an Olympic lifting gym. I know an Olympic.
Exactly, they can go either way.
Yeah, I know. Jim Schmitz. Jim Schwartz, he gets really pissed off if you say his name wrong. He was a coach in the Olympics a few times, and he has his gym out in San Francisco. His gym would be closed if it wasn't for CrossFit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's like good CrossFit. Like if CrossFit is done properly, it's actually amazing. Like you can climb a rope, you could do a snatch. If you're doing it with like good technique, it's actually could be done well. But most people don't have adequate coaching. It's one person looking at 45 people at once. I've seen disgusting lifts from CrossFitters, like the handstand walks with the banana spine. There are definitely some things that I'm like, ew.
Yeah. I think CrossFit is one of those things. It's almost like Olympic lifting in that way, where you got to be like really good at it. You know,
They're fit. If they're like the ones that compete in competition, like true CrossFit athletes,
yeah,
they got to run, bike, they got to row, they got to be able to they clean and jerk up to like 375, like an Olympic level clean and jerk in just like a casual competition.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember the guy's name. He was an Olympic lifter. He was almost good enough to lift in the Olympics. He was on the team, but he didn't make it there. And so he was like, you know what? I'm just going to start doing cardio and then become the best CrossFitter.
Mhm.
He just started doing a bunch of cardio.
I know who you're talking about too. The name's escaping me, but I'm remembering what his clean and jerk and his singlet looked like. I know who you're talking about.
3 times in a row or something like that. Like I try not to pay attention to CrossFit. It irritates me. But so how many times a week do you train your stomach?
Oh God. 1 to 2 times. I wouldn't say it's like all the time.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think you don't need to do it every day, but it's good to do. So there are components to the core. Like one day, let's say if you like to do like pull-ups and all those things.
No, I hate them.
You hate them. Yeah, like anything where you're on the ground and you're raising your legs up, like that could work. I love medicine balls, so I like to do like rotational medicine ball slams or with a band, like anti-rotation kind of core movements. There's like a ton of venues, but I try and do a core compression, which would look like an L sit or something like where your legs are, coming up on a pull-up bar. And then I would do like an anti-rotation, which would be, holding a band and preventing myself from rotating, holding that position. And I would like incorporate those movements into my training to make sure my core stability is really solid in a heavier movement, like a clean and jerk or a snatch.
Yeah, basically, so like when I'm sitting here like this, I don't start sinking like that because my core is so slobby.
Yeah.
Sitting here like this, I'm like, oh, wait.
I'm excited for after your meet. I hope you try it and you're like, all right, Julia.
You're gonna be sorry because every time I do crunches, I'm gonna tag you on Instagram.
Don't ever crunch. I don't want to see your crunch. They disgust me.
All right. Whatever I do, I'm gonna tag you and you can yell at me if I'm doing it wrong.
Sounds great. Love it.
I know when I'm gonna be probably doing it wrong. My wife's always yelling at me. I gotta put you just did it on the floor. You had to push your pelvis through or whatever you called it.
Yeah, it's a posterior tuck, which is like impossible for powerlifters to do.
All right, that's when my wife does all her core stuff. She always like makes sure she does that.
I think your wife's cool, but you don't think I'm cool, so that's why you don't listen to us.
Oh. No, I seen on one of your posts you had a girlfriend, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lesbians always hit on my wife. Always.
It's because she lifts.
Yeah.
It's because she lifts. Like lesbians love to lift. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. She always gets. And like right in front of me too. I'm like, hello, I'm right here.
They're like, excuse me, I deadlift more than you.
Yeah. Oh man. So. All right, I got a good question for you. The dedication it takes to power lift, to any type of lifting, I was, maybe there's a bunch of sports, different lifting related sports. And even, I don't know, what would you call what you do recently? Like I call what you do what CrossFitters say they're doing. The can't think of the name. Like a useful movement. They say
a functional movement. Function. Yeah.
They say they're doing. No, you're doing functional movements. And so the dedication it really takes to be able to perform all this stuff, I think it creates a mindset that helps to get you through life's toughest moments.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think of a moment that lifting helped get you through?
Oh my God. I mean, I've had a few, not to get dark and deep, but I've had like very stressful life situations with like men in the gym, like even things like that. Like, how your wife has been creeped on, I've been creeped on as well. or just like when something's bad at home or like in a relationship, any kind of like situation of stress, I feel like the endorphin release from exercise is so necessary. I think exercise develops good scheduling. It develops a good relationship with grit and hard work. I think that people who exercise every day just are more resilient in general, whether it be physically or mentally or emotionally. Like we have this skill, we have this dedication and determination that people that don't do it just don't know, right? Like, would you agree with that? Somebody who is pretty sedentary doesn't have an understanding of the passion that goes into doing this every single day.
Yeah, the second like I start talking to you, and I know you're a power lifter and you train. Like, I don't know, there's just tons of similarities. Right off the bat, you have with this person.
Yeah.
Not someone that lifts in a gym that does curls and benches. You know what I mean? I'm talking about a lifter. Different.
Yeah, it's a different attitude. It's a different mindset. Like some of the guys that do that I'm just like, you're a fucking dick. You know what I mean? Like doing the stupid dickhead movements with their gloves on. They're so cute with their little gloves. I'm like, aw, but there's something I love being really tough next to a guy and showing him what good form and good technique looks like. It's pretty empowering.
Me and my wife, we haven't trained in a public gym in a while, but there was nothing better than seeing my wife ask to work in with somebody, like, I don't know, like any sort of machine, right? And they'd be like, yeah, okay, you can work in. And then she takes the pin and puts it down lower than he had it and does a set. They always walk away. They can't handle it.
It's crazy. Like, it's funny when a lot of my clients are men. When I start training them, I'm stronger than them. And I always tell them, it's my goal for you to be stronger than me.
Yeah.
Like, always.
If you could go back, well, let's see. I mean, you seem like someone who's pretty book smart, right? Like,
Well, I love to learn. It's like my passion.
yeah. See, like I learned through getting hurt and I learned my lessons the hard way. But if you could go back, let's say like before you started powerlifting, what's one thing you would tell yourself?
Make sure the system is whole. Meaning, for example, I have so many postural things that I didn't know I would have need to address at the age of 18 years old. So for example, like I had the mindset of just lift the weight, when I wish I had the mindset of lift the weight right. So if I could go back in time and tell myself that lift the weight properly, like take the time, read the books. Like I read the books now, but it's not that it's too late because I can still do those things, but I have a few injuries that I wouldn't have had I gone back and told myself, that felt a little heavy, maybe do some other movements. Oh, you can't touch your toes. Maybe you have no business doing this. Oh, you look like a cat completely. You're a human. You should probably look like a human. So I was young, but I wish I had a little more of that common sense to work on like, are my glutes working to support this big lift or are they not? And I'm using my spine.
I guarantee you, if you went back into the past and told yourself that, your past self would have been like, shut up, I'm lifting.
Yeah, 100%. Because in that point in time, I was just like trying to lift,
That's the thing. A lot of people say stuff like that, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I would have been like, go back to the future, get out of here.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, you a cat or a dog person?
Oh, come on, dog, definitely.
Okay, good.
I want the love. Like, pay attention to me. I want you.
Correct. That's the right answer.
That's the right answer.
Okay. Well, even though you're a girl, I'm gonna ask this to you. Can you take lifting advice from a woman?
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Oh God, it's different though, because when it comes to like strength training, I would say naturally what you would think to do it would be to talk to a guy, like saying without being biased. I would talk to anybody, but in general, you would see like a big guy and you would probably want to talk to him. But like that's not to respect the amount of flexibility. Like women are doing handstands, they do like other crazy shit. So like if I was talking about strength, I'd probably talk to the big dude. If I was talking about getting limber, I would talk to the girl doing wall stuff.
You know, things have changed, like from like I would say 2015, 2016, so when girls started a lot more girls started getting into powerlifting. There's a lot of girls that know a lot of stuff about powerlifting.
They're smart. Women are strong.
Yeah, and when they get into it, they learn more than the guys. They're smarter, and you know, it's really only been it's been a fairly recent thing, because like back when I started in 2001, there really weren't that many girls lifting.
No.
You know, it's really ramped up since the whole CrossFit thing got crazy. You know, that's what really helped a lot. All right, let's see if you've ever pushed yourself to the max. Have you ever peed during lifting?
Peed. I've rejected an item from inside. I'll say that,
Okay.
but no, I peed. Yeah, like not a fall thing, but like yeah.
All
Well,
right.
bit.
All right, good. That means you've been
Sumo deadlift.
Yeah. Otherwise, you've never pushed 100%.
Yeah.
All right. What's the dumbest thing you've seen in the gym?
I've seen like people just hang from a cable upside down. Like, I don't know. I've seen some weird stuff. Like people in commercial gyms do the weirdest.
From a cable down?
Yeah, like I don't know what they're doing sometimes. You know, sometimes you'll just see a guy like, you know, moving their neck or just like doing some like weird like pumping thing, like not even shadow boxing, but sometimes I'm just like, what are you doing? I've seen a guy like on a stability ball, just like kind of like rolling around. I've seen a guy on a foam roller rolling from his toe to his neck, just like up and down in like this fast paced motion. I don't really know what people do like 90% of the time.
That's another thing my wife does that like, it's just so painful, that rolling.
It's pretty overrated. I think there are applications which it could be good, but I don't think you need to foam roll.
Yeah, listen, I'm the biggest sissy when it comes to pain. Biggest sissy. I mean, I don't know, like I can't feel anything when I squat and bench and deadlift. Maybe I'm just out of, you know, I zone out. It doesn't, you know, I don't know. I don't feel anything, but when it comes to like, I can't like taking a needle. I'm a big baby, or like the foam rolling or the little ball thing that she has. She rolls it on her.
I do the little ball, yeah.
I buy her these things for presents, and she loves them. I'm like, ooh, the torture devices.
Yeah, they are torture. But there's like, okay, you know how we were talking about how there's grit in powerlifting, you know? There is grit in putting a little ball in your glute and suffering through the pain. That is also like, it's grit. Like I suffer in positions sometimes. Like you think like there's also like max stretching. Like when you're in a split, like a max split position and you're really like integrating and in it, it feels like you're doing a max lift. It's just a different kind of action.
Yeah, not for me, man.
Yeah. It's definitely different kind of.
I'm super impressed by the stuff you do. I'm just like, wow, that's impressive. Not for me. Like Olympic
Yeah.
same thing. Like super impressive. Not for me.
Totally, I respect that though.
So what's your best powerlifting lift?
My best lifts. Are you talking about like in a competition or in a gym? I guess the gym.
No, gym numbers don't count.
Oh, gym numbers don't count?
They don't count.
Oh God. 210 squat. I don't remember what I benched, 121 maybe. It was weird. The bench was weird because they like misloaded me in like the warm up, and I wound up benching more in the warm up than the competition. Some weird thing happened, and I deadlifted 314. Okay. But my max lifts were 335, which was my max.
that herniated a disc. That was my max.
Yeah.
It was like a 20-second deadlift. It was a disgusting, ugly lift. I did do it.
Well, let me guess how the lift went, right? Because it came off the floor fast, probably got to your knees fairly quick, and then it was above the knee was where you would hit.
Yeah, that's where the cat back form lets you down once you're.
It comes off the floor fast like that.
Yeah, I could have ripped probably 400 off the floor, but like locking it out, no way.
Yeah, that's like my wife's got beautiful form, and if she gets it off the floor, it's gonna come up.
That's how I am now. Now that I'm like pushing, I used to think of, like, a lot of people think of the deadlift as a pull, which it is in many ways, but I started to treat it like a push. And I feel like that makes it a little better because technically you're pushing the ground away. It's a different way to look at it.
So let me tell you about this because you're all book smart, but I figured something out and people are telling me it's pretty smart. So my son, he's 9 years old and he's having a hard time with his back, right? So I tell him, Mikey, keep your back tight, and he'll go, he'll pick it up like that. Mikey, keep it tight, and then he like hyperextends like that.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's tight and it's good. So it's not that he doesn't have the strength to do it. He just has no idea where his back is.
Exactly. That's called proprioception. He's not aware of where he is in space.
Yeah, I know that fancy word. I just learned it. So anyway, so I did was I put the laptop right in front of him, and I put my phone on a tripod next to him, and I did a Zoom meeting. Where he could see his back live.
Yeah, nice.
And let me tell you, he was locked in, like his back was totally flat, and he was just slamming. Because, and right now I have him doing just sets of 15 now, just so he can just get it down, get drilled into his head where his back is. And then I have him doing that, and then I also have him doing. Let me get a paper. Lady Ellen Stein, she's a really great lifter, but a huge steroid abuser. But she was like, stick the paper underneath his armpits, and when you do that, you have to keep everything tight. The second you come forward and loosen up, the paper drops out.
That's a good cue. Yeah, that's like a very tactile cue. I like that.
Yeah, I just saw her pull over 400. I mean, she's almost 70 years old. I mean, she's a phenomenal lifter. Yeah, raw.
Animal.
Yeah. Ellen Stein, she's a great lifter. And she didn't even get into the sport until her 40s. But, yeah. Well, she never listens. I don't think she listens to the podcast. But, like, her and that whole I went to this competition. It was in New Jersey. It was called Femme Fatale. It was only girls powerlifting, but it was non-tested. It was really sad to see some of these girls, I mean, in my opinion, because it was, in my opinion, I felt sad. I seen some of these girls, they weren't that old. You could tell already where they've changed themselves through the steroids, and I'm just like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it, And I could, at the time, that, because like you talk to Ellen's, she's older, and she's like, you know what, but this is what she said. She said, you know what, I wish I never did it. And she's like, at this point now, I look like a guy, and the problem is I don't like girls. So she's like, I'm kind of screwed,
Yeah.
That's what she told me, so I'm like, it's not worth it. I mean, to deadlift a little more, to squat a little more, to bench a little more, to change your whole body.
People are willing. I mean, it's all about personal choice. If they're willing to do that, then find, non-drug tested meats and personal choice. If you want to do that, I wouldn't, but that's you.
Yeah, yeah, it's on them, but I mean, me personally, I just felt sad. I was like, I see, yeah, it was sad. Let's see. Oh, and reps. As many reps as possible, right? So this is one of the stupid things I got into, where my wife was like, I don't think this is a good idea. Oh no, I think she did it for a while with me a little bit. Every set, I was doing as many reps as possible. And
No, yeah, that is like poor fatigue management.
yeah, because I was like, you know what? I was like, why should I leave it on the table? Like, if I can get one more rep, you know what I mean? Like, it just, in my lifting head, it didn't make any sense. I was like, I was doing everything, no matter what. It was always the failure. And yeah, like everything else, I learned the hard way. It doesn't work out.
But it's interesting because, like, I would say that's also represented in masculine and feminine energy. So, like, more masculine energy is I'm not working unless I really feel like I can't do more.
Right.
And women are a little more focused on, like, this seems good. I need to recover and rest. Like, hormonally, we require more rest, more recovery, just those facets of life. If only we can integrate some of those mindsets a little more, then people would be really healthy in the sport.
Well, I don't know what it is. I think it's a combination of learning, experience, maybe my testosterone levels dropping. That, yeah, we finally can come together and learn from each other on some things. You know, but still, one thing that my wife was doing that, like, I was never a fan of, but she would squat heavy and then do her light deadlifts that day. She'd do like 3 sets of deadlifts after her heavy squat, and then on her heavy squat day, heavy deadlift day, then she would do like 3 sets of squats after that. And I actually tried it once, and I pulled a muscle, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. I was like, why don't you just do your heavy squat and just do your squats after that? And I don't know. So I think now she's doing that. Like, but that was one thing.
I've seen both. Yeah, I mean, I would do the same thing that she would do. That's something that would look good to me in a program.
Yeah, I gave it a try. I literally went in there, I squatted, and then I pulled, and I yanked something in my hamstring. That was it. I was like, I'm never doing it again. It's probably because I don't stretch or anything.
Yeah, you didn't warm up the deadlift after the squat.
Yeah, no, I think well, I mean, if you squatted before, I mean, your legs are warm.
Sure, Michael.
Thank you. Giving me one thing. Okay. Well, you're not powerlifting right now, so I guess some of the stuff that you do, you need to see yourself in a mirror, right? Or do you not?
I just started using a mirror because when I was powerlifting, I avoided it. As you know, you want it to be like a competition. So there's no mirror in a competition. I didn't use it. But now, like, I'm noticing when it comes to flexibility, it's way more easy to, in my opinion, develop an asymmetry. So, like, let's say I'm in this, like, that wide straddle position on the floor where your legs are like that. Like, my right leg has way less external rotation than my left leg. So I started to use a mirror because I didn't realize that I was traveling more here as opposed to my center of mass here. So when it comes to that, I would say, like, using the mirror is a little more important, but I also don't have a lot of weight on me. So it's not like straining on my neck to turn and watch. It's not distracting me. It's helping me.
Okay, now you could always use my laptop idea.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely do that.
It's going to spread. I swear I invented it, and so it's going to become a thing, and it's going to become a thing I invented.
It's going to be the mirror, and then I'll have my phone on the side so that I could be like,
Yeah, I like to ask the older people that, like, guys that have been lifting from the 60s and 70s, like, you mention mirrors, and they're just like, they want to smash them. They hate them. You know what I'm talking about? You ever talk to, like, anyone old school?
Yeah, I like that mindset though. I actually really like old time strong men, like lifts Like, I really respect some of the stuff that they do. Like, the bench presses are crazy, hundreds of pounds in like a compromised position.
Yeah.
Insane.
What's your opinion on bulking and cutting?
I understand why you would do that, but I also don't make people do that. So I don't have anyone that does competitions, which is the main reason why I don't have anyone do that. But I think in terms of gaining strength, you do want to be in a little bit of a calorie surplus. I don't think you need to be gaining tons of weight to do that. I think it could be very minimal in terms of body weight fluctuation. But yeah, if they're like doing a lot of hypertrophy, I would definitely have them increase their calorie intake, as opposed to if they're resting a lot more in between sets, as opposed to putting them on like this bulk cut cycle where really they're just messing with their weight and manipulating their weight using, saunas, spitting in a cup, starving themselves. Like, it's not good. It puts your body in this like flight and fight mode that I don't think it should be in as much as it is.
Well, the only reason I could see you doing that is for like weigh-ins, if you need to lose a pound or something like that.
I've done it. I've dropped 10. Like, when I power lifted, I told you, like, I was very like in my masculine mindset of like perform, achieve. Like, I've been in a sauna and lost 10 pounds in a day. It's not healthy.
No, I've seen guys like lose like about 10 pounds like that. I've heard of people being able to do 20 something pounds. I've never seen it happen. Like, there's a whole method to it. They drink like tons of water that week, and there's a whole diet to it. But it's one of the reasons why I don't think there should be early weigh-ins.
Mm-hmm.
Because early weigh-ins are only a new phenomenon. You used to weigh in the morning of the competition, so you weren't able.
That's what it should be, I think.
Yeah. So like this, I talked about a lot of this stuff with Pat Susko. He was out in Seagate. I used to work out with him. You know what Seagate is, right? By Coney Island.
No, actually.
If you look at Coney Island, the tip of Coney Island, there's a little gated community.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Seagate. That's what
okay.
But anyway, this guy Pat Susko, we used to work out with him back in the 90s. He squatted 925. Yeah, and this was just a single ply suit, not a crazy multi-ply suit. Before there were early weigh-ins, before there were the monolift squat racks, he had to take this off. He had to pick this up and walk it back. And I'm like, Pat, all these new things. I'm like, do you kind of get annoyed when, people are like, oh, this guy squats 1,000 pounds, this guy squats 1020, like you definitely could have done 100 pounds more.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, you can't compare, Babe Ruth to a guy now. He was like, it's just different. He was like, did the guys break my record? Like, yeah, but I don't know. He didn't seem to be bothered by it. If I was him, I would be bothered by it, I think.
Yeah, I feel like I would and I wouldn't be bothered by it, because I understand that there's more like data, more research, more knowledge now than there was back then. So you just have like people doing freak things to achieve freak numbers. Like the numbers putting up 335 as a 130-pound girl 5 years ago was impressive. It's not now. It's not now. So
it's funny. It's not. Yeah.
So it's funny, like a guy deadlifting 600 pounds is not impressive anymore,
No.
like at all. So many like 74-kilogram lifters achieve that. It's crazy.
Even in the gym, like everywhere, like 20 years ago in the gym, if you were deadlifting over 3 plates, everyone was like, "Oh, that guy's pretty strong." Like, now it's like it's any gym that's nothing.
Yeah, like when I was deadlifting 3 plates at the YMCA, all these guys would be like, "Yo, bump it."
Yeah, that guy Pat Susko, he was a really nice guy, man. When we graduated college, we went to train in this gym in Bensonhurst in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It's on Avenue U and like West 3rd Street. There was a pool hall there, and it wasn't supposed to be a gym in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this totally illegal gym down in the basement. And it was awesome. And this guy Pat Susko, like he basically ran like the back of the gym where the squat racks were and everything. And I mean, he should have told me like to get out of there. You know what I mean? Like compared to what him and his crew were lifting. But he was so nice. Like he just was like, yeah, come lift. You know, he didn't even care if they had to take like 8 plates off so I could squat. You know what I mean? He didn't care. But I find that with this whole sport with powerlifting, I really do. Every competition I go to, I've had, I mean, probably, I don't go to that. I go to maybe 2 or 3 a year. So probably, I don't know, 25, 45, 50 competitions I've been to. You know, I've had great experiences at all of them. You know, I really have.
It's fun to go. Like there's such camaraderie there. That it's just like one of the most beautiful sports, I think, in terms of sportsmanship.
The only one that I've heard is better is the strongman world.
I could imagine that.
Now, guys in powerlifting meets are nice, right? But if sound like my kids are making the house fall down. If you're competing against someone when you're powerlifting, people are always just looking at, they're worried about their number. What do they got to do to get ahead of that guy? I'm going to have to deadlift 3, 4, or 5, whatever it is to get to beat that person. This is I've talked to a few strongmen, and they claim that in strongman competitions, people are not even worrying about what they did.
Mm-hmm.
They did as good as they can, and now they're rooting for the other guy, and no one's worrying about if they're gonna win or lose. So I'd like to go to one day. I want to try.
I'll come. I would go. Like I like to just watch. It's fun. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I definitely want to go one day. If I've done podcasts with a couple guys, some in Massachusetts, some in Pennsylvania. So if I told them once the COVID stuff, they start having meets and let me know, I'll go. I'll shoot you a message.
Yeah, I would love to go. I mean, I follow a few strong men on Instagram, and I definitely love watching them do yoke walk. It's impressive. I mean, it's crazy what they could do.
Well, I was talking to a guy yesterday in Ireland, and he swears that doing the yoke walk will increase your squat. I don't know. I really can't see how just walking is going to do it. But he says it does.
Well, I would agree with him because you're taking a load heavier than you could squat, and you're initiating locomotion with that load. So like, you know how you're walking, there's always a walkout in a squat. Imagine being able to do that with double the weight of the squat. It would build great confidence in that part of the lift. So I wouldn't program it as necessarily like the first thing I would have somebody do. But yeah, you know how a pin squat helps, like a squat, it would be kind of like a similar application.
Yeah. Well, I do something like, I do like an overload. I think I started it too early, but I'll do like after my squat, I'll do a set with chains and the bands on,
Mm-hmm.
To a point where it's like, I mean, just lifting it off the catches is like, it's very heavy.
I do that with the front squat. Like I go into a front squat position and I walk it out and I overload it by like a 20% or whatever. And I just do a hold for 10 seconds and squeeze my core. And it's killer in the front rack position because your elbow positioning really engages your core more than a back squat would.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That would help you if you don't want to do too much core. You could do that.
I'll do that. Yeah, definitely do that more. So what is COVID screwing you up with training your clients?
Did it? Yeah, it definitely did. I'm in like a little private gym now, so it's not too worrisome because, it's like a 3 trainer at a time limit. One person could be on the other side. I could be on my side. It's not as bad, but I would say it was a little financially stressful in the beginning of it for sure. Yeah.
Well,
And you can't lift with a mask like to your max potential. It's just not happening.
No, you can't. What about as a lifter who's training people that maybe don't have the same mindset as you. How do you do that without hitting them over the head with a plate?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard at first. You definitely have to like navigate their personality. I would say in the beginning, women, I have to slow them down a little more. They want to know what's next. They want like sets of 15 back to back. They don't want to rest at all.
Really?
You have to teach them, you have to teach women to love the barbell, and you have to teach men to love to stretch. So for me, like I do want to hit them all. I love them all to death, but I want to hit them. But it's a fun challenge. Like I enjoy a mental challenge. And if it's about figuring out what I need to do to build trust and like make them realize how important it is, I love doing that. So I have endless patience for people. I'll just keep telling them they're wrong if they're wrong.
Who's easier to coach, men or women?
Oof. Just different. I would say men are more stubborn. So like if I'm suggesting something to change, it might take a little longer for the guy to realize the relative importance. So for example, the guy I have, Luca, that does Olympic lifting, I've been telling him for probably like 2 months, like, you probably should start to do power cleans, power snatches, and let's work a little bit on he has a pretty bad anterior pelvic tilt. I want to work a little more on that and, improve his trunk, like T-spine mobility. It took him 2 months to say yes. Like we were just still clean and jerking, still snatching. And I was telling him those will improve if we fix this. And then he went for a cupping session with the guy. And then he goes to me, I really want to work on this with you. It's like you and your wife. It's the same situation. So women will trust me a little more than a guy would.
Most people say they like coaching women better.
Mm-hmm.
They say that they all say the same thing, that they have to have like an argument or a discussion with the guys, like why they should do this and why they shouldn't do that. And the girls are just more, they listen more.
Yeah, I kind of like explaining, so I don't mind, but they're more stubborn for sure.
Yeah, men don't like explaining, and especially men coaches, they do not like explaining. It's just, I said it, now you do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why we have that problem. It makes like it irritates us.
Yeah, you're just like, I want to spend the time lifting, not talking.
Yeah. What if somebody wanted to train with you? Would they have to go to your gym, or they go to your website, or how do they get you?
Yeah, like they could go to my website, they could message me. I have a phone number in my Instagram bio that's separate. So like people, if they could text me and I'll get it and I could respond. And that's all like prospective clients that reach out to that number. I train outside. The gym's called Phoenix Fitness. It's on Staten Island and I love it. Like it's a really comfortable setting. There's sleds, there's all the strength and conditioning equipment you could need. But I also like to take them outside too. Like I won't just keep them in the gym. I try to get them the vitamin D. I'll bring a barbell outside. I don't really care. But I like the change in setting sometimes too for them.
What background is Delissio? I know it's Italian, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Super
you don't seem very Staten Island Italian.
No, I mean, we are like, if you were to sit with my dad, you would be like, wow, straight from like Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, super, what are you doing? I don't really understand what you're doing with all this heavy weight. I don't know why you're lifting. You're a little girl. Why are you doing that? Like my dad's like that. This is going to be funny, but I feel like I had an accent and I kind of trained it out because people that aren't from New York find it unprofessional.
Yeah, I sound like an idiot. I sound like an idiot.
Yeah, New York is a gross, like, people don't like how we sound.
I lived in Brooklyn. Well, I was born in Brooklyn, and I moved upstate 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's in you then. It's like a culture of like gabagol and managad and galama.
Yep. Prosciutto, gabagol. Yep. Mozzarella.
Mm-hmm. Mutts. It's not even, we're too lazy to say the whole word.
Yeah, I had a friend, my partner, I was in the NYPD. I'm retired, but So me and my partner, we're going to this deli on, no, not on Bleecker Street. I think it was on West 4th Street. So, and he asked for a hero with Cappy Cola.
Ew.
I'm like, what is Cappy Cola? And he was like, oh, right there, see Cappy Cola. I'm like, that's Gabagool.
Yeah.
Cappy Cola.
Cappy Cola. I know. I met a guy from Italy though, and he was telling me that they don't do that there. He's like, you New York Italians ruined everything.
No, I watched a whole little documentary about why people in Brooklyn sound like idiots, basically. And Italy really wasn't Italy. It was all like these 13 different kingdoms.
Mhm.
And like a few of the kingdoms were in different parts of Brooklyn. And like these dominant parts of like their language, like all blended together. And that's why we all, like, I sound like an idiot.
Mhm. No, I could see that. There's something with like the whole Ellis Island thing that really, I think, brought accents out to New York that no other place has.
Yeah. All right, but this was really fun. I knew you were saying, oh, you know, I'm not powerlifting now. Listen, once you're a powerlifter, you're always a powerlifter. You're a lifter.
I want to deadlift. Like this made me want to like go to the gym and SBD.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks for all your information. And I'm going to start to work my stomach out and tag you.
Yes, and if you call it your stomach, I'll kill you. I'm
Thanks
like,
a
your
lot.
night eating is you working your stomach.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care. Thanks for having me.